Brent Porce here at TopVelocity.net. Going to pitch announcer here, Luke. Going to pair him up with Cody Hall. Let's take them both into their leg lifts. Okay, so similar leg lifts. Let's say Cody's probably more inside drive leg just a little bit. Let's take them down into their load positions as they load into that back leg. Okay, so you can see Cody's definitely taking advantage of that more inside drive leg, getting more momentum, moving forward and down at the same rate. You can see Luke is just coming out of the leg lift and more continuing to load down. So it's important. It's important to not load that hip and abduction so early. So you can see both pitchers go back into these really aggressive tilts back towards the rubber, but Cody's doing that as a counter to the hip movements. So as much as the shoulders are going back, the hips are going forward. So you can kind of see that countering together, hips forward, trunk back. If you watch Luke, he's lifting, and right into the lift, he's got the hips pushed forward, and there's not really a countering effect. It's really just kind of slowly moving the hips forward and aggressively loading the trunk back. So we don't have that countering. Therefore, you're not going to have that stretch shortening into the hip. And what happens is, everything's stalling out, and now timing's off. And you can see when he finally gets to where Cody is, into that linear back leg position, even say more right here for Cody. Cody's still closed. Cody's, even more counter-rotated in the trunk, because he's staying more on this back leg, waiting for that back leg when it's time. Once that leg can't basically load down and forward anymore, and it has to go into extension, so it doesn't disrupt that force production. So you can see last minute, then he opens front foot, and you can see that foot just turn open, and that back leg extend, that knee extend, that ankle even kick, and into front foot strike as the arm cocks. So then he's got that. He's got good force now behind his hip. He's got a really close front leg position and a really close counter rotation in the trunk or separation. So we can see here with Luke at this point, his front foot is so open, it just starts to then, that rotation at that point starts to bring that knee down, and it's really kind of pulling and forcing everything to kind of collapse and not really drive into front foot. So he's hitting front foot with a more open foot position, and it doesn't have that good separation or that counter rotation. There is some separation there, but not at the magnitude of Cody, because Cody's got to have a lot more force behind the hip, because the back leg drove the hip through and the front leg didn't pull it around like Luke did. And because of that, it gave more leverage to keep the shoulders counter-rotated into. So what you see is when Luke's hips open, you see the shoulders catching up, okay? But when Cody's hips open, the shoulders are still back, and then what that does is it's going to push them out a lot farther. I'd say their trunk positions are the same, but the loading on the arm is definitely a difference. So you can see more external rotation because of more energy coming around trunk rotation to lay the arm back. So you're seeing probably similar trunk positions, but definitely more loading up into the arm to also delay energy to release. So you can see here even Luke's the elbow getting way out in front of his face. You're going to see Cody's just, maybe right in front of his nose, and then turning over even some front leg. Well, he just kept his front leg stable at that point. So, very similar in deliveries, but big difference in that countering hip to or trunk to hip load or shoulder to hip load initially, with Cody getting a lot more momentum, and Cody staying closed or staying loaded and then powering more hip rotation and getting more hip to shoulder separation than Luke did, which we then see manifest through trunk and arm path to the end.